Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. We're from wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Afi Brymore. I'm the founder of Sack Fruits, and I'm welcoming you all to day one, two, three, four of the Eko Wellness Fair. This is our inaugural session. This is our inaugural fair, and we're coming to you virtual like everything else this year due to COVID. We're hoping that next year, 2022, we will be live where we can, network and share, not just virtually, but in person. So I hope you've joined us for the first 3 days. And if you have, please join us, send us a chat and tell us what you've learned, anything that was exciting for you. For me, what is the most beautiful session for me was the one by Sarah Bullis, where she had this breathe session and I learned how to breathe a different way, and then spinning. And it was very, very exciting, a new one for me. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everybody, all our hosts and all the presenters who have been there for us the last 3 days. The good news is, you can follow us on our Facebook page. You can follow us even on Instagram. You can follow us on Lagos Tourism, where we are live, and we're live today on YouTube. So let me take you guys through what we're having for you today. It's a very exciting lineup, and I hope you will stay and join us. And please do us a favor, share with your friends, like us on Facebook, like us wherever you find us, tell everyone about it, because you know what? We all need a break. It's been COVID for the last almost 1.5 years. It's a lot of pressure, so, there's been stories about mental health. And so it couldn't come at a better time for us to share with you and get some experts in these areas to be able to share some nuggets on what you can do at a time like this, where there's a pandemic that slows you down, both in business, in your personal lives, in your family's lives, and work, and everything else. So we do need something like the Eko Wellness Fair to get us through. Okay, so we're going to get started now. Today, the focus today is mental well-being, and it's actually, the focus for an entire week of exciting activities. We're going to have the origami session from Tobi of Arts in Medicine. This is pre-recorded, but it's an exciting one. At 12:15, we'll have mental well-being in relationships by Dr. Esther Malm. She's live, and you're going to get to hear from her on what it is, how you can have your mental well-being, especially in relationships. And we all have relationships, with our co-workers, we have relationships, with our friends, we have relationships, with our lovers, we have relationships, with our kids, we have relationships. So join us about 12:15 West African time with Dr. Esther on that. Then we have a cooking demo, yay, by Freda of Brunt Orange. My Brunt Orange, you can follow her on Instagram. I can't wait to see that. And I think actually she's coming before Dr. Esther today. Then we're going to have a short film on mental health by AMAA. And that's going to be exciting. And yeah, so we're going to have the producer of that short film with us today. So stay around and, put your comments about the short film in the chat room. And then finally, another breathe walk by PJ Okocha. So exciting lineup for you today. Now, let's go ahead and, get the session with the doctor first. So let me go ahead and introduce Dr. Esther to you. Bear with me because she has, a lovely, lovely profile. Dr. Esther Malm is a psychologist and a licensed marriage and family therapist. She teaches, she researches, and she practices. Her research focuses on the impact of family functioning and parenting of children, adolescents, college, and adult outcomes within and across wild cultures. Her current cross-cultural projects include examination of marital conflict and satisfaction among Ghanaians, home and abroad, and resiliency among parents of children with developmental disabilities in Ghana. That is so, so touching. Thank you, Dr. Esther. Overall, she believes that healthy parents and healthy parenting are needed foundations for healthier children and nations. In practice, Esther serves individuals, couples, and families. She's an assistant professor of psychology at Murray State University, Kentucky, USA. And just as I introduced Dr. Esther, please, I would like, if from time to time, if we can get the helplines on the screen, please Those helplines are very important. Please use them. There's always someone on the underside of the helpline to help you with whatever issues that you're having. And always remember, a problem shared is a problem solved. If you don't talk about it with somebody, then it's going to eat you up alive. So please, can we have, the helplines on the screen? Just keep, flashing them so that our viewers can actually make a note of them, and please use them. All right, without further ado, can we please turn it around to our first session?
Matters. This edition will feature therapeutic sessions, reflexology, breathwork, spa sessions, float therapy, mental health conversations, cooking demonstrations, online shopping sessions, and many more. This virtual event will start from the 1st of May to the 7th of May 2021 from 12 noon to 2 p.m. daily. To register, please visit www.ekowellness.net. Proudly supported by Lagos State Ministry of Tourism, Lagos State Ministry of Health, our technical partner, Flutterwave.
Reflexology, stretches, gardening, spa session, and shopping for healthy food and drinks. These and many more will be coming up at the 6th edition of the Eko Wellness Fair, scheduled to hold from the 1st of May to the 7th of May 2021. Theme: My Mental Health Matters. Special guests include Sarah Bulos, Sisimi of Okwe Farms, Mrs. Shoemimo, Dr. Joshua Awesome, Freda of My Burnt Orange, Duchess Nena, and many more. To register, visit ekowellness.net. Registration is free. This is a virtual event, proudly supported by Lagos State Ministry of Health, Lagos State Ministry of Tourism, and our technical partner, Flutterwave.
All right, everybody. This is day 4, and we need to switch things up a little. So bear with us. We're live on YouTube, but please follow us on Facebook and also the website, the Lagos State Tourism, Lagos Tourism. They one of our biggest supporters this year for the Eko Wellness Fair. So we're going to switch things up slightly just so that we can get the schedule going. So The first thing is going to be the cooking demo by Freda of My Burnt Orange. Please follow her, My Burnt Orange. This is pre-recorded. We have 2 live sessions today, the Breathe by PJ Okocha, Breathe Work, and the live session with Dr. Esther. So immediately after the cooking demo, we'll then reintroduce Dr. Esther. And then we're going to have the short film curated by AMAA, Rootflix and Inshort Film Festival, which is going to be pre-recorded. Okay, so sorry about that. We're just switching things up a bit. So let's turn it over to now to the cooking demo. Love to see what Freda is going to spin up for us today of My Burnt Orange. Take it away, guys.
Hi there, my name is Freda Moyambo from My Burnt Orange, and today I will be cooking with you as a part of the Eko Wellness Fair. If you, like me, went through 2020, then you have your mental wellness at the top of your mind. I'll tell you a short story about exactly why this is for me. In late 2020, my entire family got hit with COVID-19. For me personally, as a result, I lost my sense of smell and taste for 2 whole months. It came back, thankfully. However, it hasn't come back fully. Every now and again, I notice that my sense of smell has changed, or I'm smelling things that I didn't used to smell. I'm also not smelling things that I should be aware of. I have since learned that there's actually something called scent or smell therapy. And I have learned how to use this and incorporate it into my everyday life, especially when cooking. Today, we are going to cook a West African stew with a South African twist. I'm making West African peanut stew using spices that are a part of a Durban curry. I actually wrote this in a book, and I've just adjusted the recipe a little bit to suit us today. Now, whilst let's jump into it, and I'm going to step you through all the ingredients. We're going to use a whole range of spices. Firstly, all right. Action. Cumin, coriander, cloves, fenugreek seeds, tomato paste, some chili powder, and some ground ginger. Mushrooms, potatoes, some chopped tomatoes, carrots, 1 onion, and some fresh parsley for garnishing, unsweetened peanut butter, some water, and some vegetable stock. And finally, some chicken. And now, without further ado, let us step into it but I'm going to let you know exactly what I do a little bit every day to retrain my smell muscle. Simply take a few of the everyday ingredients you have, like an onion. An onion has a very strong smell, and I remember what onions smell like. Just smell it a little bit and take that in. It smells nothing like what I remember, but that is okay. You're going to train yourself every day, just a little bit, and try and remember the scents you used to know. Now with the spices, all we're going to do is mix together the whole cumin, coriander, cardamom, and fenugreek, toast them and grind them. Once you have a very hot pan, just add a little bit of oil. If you want to measure, I'd say 4 tablespoons is more than enough. And then give your chicken a nice good fry. Put them skin down. If you don't like skin, take it off. But if you're going to cook with the skin, make sure you crisp it up really well. And while that is browning, just chop up your carrots into nice sizable chunks and dice your onions. Once the chicken has browned, we're going to add the onions, we're going to add the spices. But whilst we wait, let's do a little bit of scent therapy. Now what I did with the spices was I heated them up and then ground them. So we have this beautiful powder from all those spices. Simply give this a gentle smell. I can smell the toastiness. I can smell the citrus notes from the coriander, which is a very positive sign for me. Do this a few times and then set it down and wait for 5 minutes until you smell anything else. And now it's time to add the onions. Now you want the onions to caramelize because that gives it a wonderful flavor. But you don't want the onions to get too dark. And now it's time for the spices. I like adding my spices to the hot oil because it tempers them and that heightens their fragrance even more. And you want to add all the ground spices except the chili and ginger. We'll add those later unless you want a coughing pest in your life. Now we're going to add the carrots and potatoes, and don't worry, it's not too early to add these because they'll get really nice and soft as the sauce cooks up. Now the next step is the really fun part, because if you're sleepy, you're going to have to wake up. You're going to add the tomato paste and the peanut butter, and then quickly progress on to the next step so that you don't burn anything. So here, that's my 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. And I've got very nice and smooth unsweetened peanut butter here. So the measurement for those of you who want some serious precision is 4 tablespoons. But I am eyeballing it here and just heaping up a certain amount. And I know it's just right. Alright guys, so here's where you move quickly because it's going to get really sticky. So you're going to add your vegetable stock. And then you can add more water if necessary, because as it cooks, it dries up, it gets thicker. So you can put more water or less depending on how thick you want it. And now once you've added the stock, you can put in your mushrooms, and it's a good time to add the rest of your spices. As it's no longer frying, it will not irritate you. So just give that a stir and allow it to simmer for about 20 to 25 minutes until the chicken is cooked. And if you want to know what to serve this dish with, it's going to go really well with some hot steamed rice. And we're going to put it together in a plate now. But just before I'm done, I'm going to give it a taste. It tastes perfect to me. But if you prefer to add a little bit of salt, add it according to your taste. But for now, this is perfectly fine, just the way it is.
But it's usually so intense. Am I still mute? Hi, sorry, apparently you couldn't hear me. Can you hear me now? Can you give a nudge if you can hear me? Great stuff. Well, let's start again. Hello, Lagos. Hello, Nigeria. Hello, world, wherever it is that you're joining us from. Thank you, Freda, for that cooking demo. I must say that it was yummy. I got to eat that plate and it was good. I cleared it out. Well, if you want the recipe, and it's a recipe that I will recommend, like I said, I cleared the plate. Register on our website, and you will get the recipe for that session over the coming days. So moving very quickly along, we're going to go straight into the short film that we have for you today. We sort of changed the order today so that we can create a really we can create an experience for you. So the short film is coming up next. And then after that, and I think we have the writer of the film with us, and she's going to share with us her thoughts on that. And then we'll go on to our session with Dr. Esther. Oh, sorry, I'm covering for Afi. She had to, anyways, I'm covering for Happy for now. Okay, off to AMAA Film. Thank you.
Cooking demonstration, mental health workshops, therapeutic sessions, float therapy, breathwork, reflexology, stretches, gardening, spa session, and shopping for healthy food and drinks. These and many more will be coming up at the 6th edition of the Eko Wellness Fair, scheduled to hold from the 1st of May to the 7th of May, 2021. Theme, My Mental Health Matters. Special guests include Sarah Boulos, Sisimi of Okwe Farms, Mrs. Shuemimo, Dr. Joshua Awesome, Freda of My Burnt Orange, Duchess Nana, and many more. To register, visit ekowellness.net. Registration is free. This is a virtual event. Proudly supported by Lagos State Ministry of Health, Lagos State Ministry of Tourism, and our technical partner, Flutterwave. Scheduled to hold from the 1st of May to the 7th of May 2021. Theme: My Mental Health Matters. Special guests include Sarah Boulos, Sisimi of Okwe Farms, Mrs. Shuemimo, Dr. Joshua Awesome, Freda of My Burnt Orange, Duchess Nana, and many more. To register, visit ekowellness.net. Registration is free. This is a virtual event. Proudly supported by Lagos State Ministry of Health, Lagos State Ministry of Tourism, and our technical partner, Flutterwave.
Collaboration with Eko Wellness presents the 6th edition of the Eko Wellness Fair, themed My Mental Health Matters. This edition will feature therapeutic sessions, reflexology, breathwork, spa sessions, float therapy, mental health conversations, cooking demonstrations, online shopping sessions, and many more. This virtual event will start from the 1st of May to the 7th of May 2021 from 12 noon to 2 p.m. daily. To register, please visit www.ekowellness.net. proudly supported by Lagos State Ministry of Tourism, Lagos State Ministry of Health, or technical partner Flutterwave.
All right, everybody, welcome back. You are tuned in, and thank you for joining the Eko Wellness Expo with our focus this year on mental health. You have just watched the movie Bloody Hands, written by Folashade Akintunde. Folashade, the writer, do we have her here with us? I believe we do. She's in the studio. Can we have Folashade Akintunde? Hello, Folashade. How are you doing today?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. Awesome. Now, for everyone who watched this short movie, and short movies, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 20 minutes. We've got the writer here, Falashade Akintunde, with us. If you have any questions for her, please share them in the chat room. And we want to apologize profusely for the technical issues we had. But thank goodness for you to be able to read the subtitles at the bottom of the screen. I made out what was going on, but I'd like you to tell the audience, Balashadi, what made you write this short script?
Okay. I think I wrote this 5 years ago. I think I'm just glad that the director saw it and thought it was a story worth telling. Um, I had gotten to that stage where my mom and family members had started disturbing me. Okay, oh, you should bring a guy home. You should bring a guy home. We need to see who you're dating. Marriage is the next step. And as much as I understood, right, I felt like everybody expects marriage to be the same for everybody. There are people that have been in marriages for 25 years. And there was this very popular mistake of confusing longevity of a marriage as a happy one. I lived with so many women growing up and I saw what they were going through.
Mm.
And they would stay in the marriage because that is what is expected of them, regardless of if the person is hurting them, if the person is beating them, if the person is cheating on them, because they attached so much importance to women being married. So that year I think I just took it upon myself to talk about various things that I had seen and heard about marriages, that people were consciously just turning blind eyes to, and Bloody Hand happened to be one of them. I just thought, okay, so for some people, the issue might get so much because in this movie he was beating her a lot. At a point it got really bloody and dirty and everything. And I just imagined, because it's a short film, I couldn't like put all of that there. I just imagined that maybe, she had gone home to her parents and something. They would say, no, you have to go back to your husband's place, beg him, apologize, and all of that. And then eventually she decided to take matters into her hands. It was not right to take another person's life, but it had so drained her mentally, physically, and emotionally that she had to take things into her own her hands. So the whole point of writing that was to show people that marriage is not a bed of roses. And I believe personally that marriage might not be for everyone, or marriage as it was advertised for us when we're growing up, for forcing it upon us and all of that, might not be for everybody. And things might get so bad that they might take each other's life. So that was just one of the things I wanted to point out by writing that story.
So I'm going to ask you a personal question now. Do you think marriage is for you then?
So I don't know. The thing is, I always tell people something that opinions and experiences influence your opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Based on the things I've seen and heard about marriage, I would automatically say no. I don't want to do it. But in this generation, I feel like there are men and women waking up to the fact that you should be able to do marriage on your own terms. You should be able to let your wife work, let the husband work, decide not to have kids, decide to have kids. You shouldn't do things based on what your parents expect you to do. So I believe that if I find someone who we just our opinions about marriage and what we want for our family just works together, I don't see why not. I don't see why not.
Okay, thank you. For anybody who's watching this right now, if you have any questions or comments for the short film Bloody Hands, Flash at It, she's the writer. She wrote it 5 years ago. This is very exciting. This is a topic that touches on everybody everywhere, not just Nigeria, but globally as well. And she wrote it 5 years ago, and 5 years after the fact, for me, I think it's still valid And it's just so poignant given that we are focused on mental health during the Eko Wellness 2021 edition. So, I think my last question for you, because I don't see that there are any questions here, is would you do like a feature film on this, given that this topic is so important? I can't imagine, during COVID, given what this short film that you've shown and you wrote 5 years ago, given COVID, who knows, what could have happened in many, many marriages and relationships where people were stuck at home, for indefinite amounts of time, as opposed to getting on a flight and traveling for work, or focused on the kids, taking them to school. This time, both of you are in that house every single day, 1 day, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So do you think there's like a follow-up on this, or maybe a feature film on this in the future, or something that you just felt, at that time you wanted to tell the story in a short film?
Before I answer that, there's something you said about the quarantine period. I saw a blog post recently, and they said for over 2 million times, men Googled how they could beat women in their homes without people finding out. So that is the reality of what is going on right now. So about a follow-up feature film, of course there will be, because I told you that when I wrote it that year, I wrote a string of different situations that could be happening in marriages that people are not looking at or trying to talk about because apparently it's a taboo, right? So of course, when the time is right, when there is sponsorship, when there is everything on ground, I believe there should be, like, it is not even up to me anymore. I feel like this is something that should be told because I know people that are going through these things, and it just has to be said.
We're going to look out for it. We can see that you're young and, you're very vibrant, and you just connect to, the issues that people face. So kudos to you. A comment from Dr. Esther Malm says, God bless you, Falashade. Your testimony is encouraging and powerful, and many young people do definitely need to hear this. She loves your honesty, and, thank you to the Eko Wellness team for putting this work out there. And for all the viewers that are on right now, we apologize for the technical issues, but we will show this film again tomorrow on day 5 of the Eko Wellness Expo 2021. It's called Bloody Hands by Folashade Akintunde. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you.
So glad to do this. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, viewers, but once again, for everyone who's joining us, that was a great short film by Folashade Akintunde. You can watch it tomorrow. And also, if you missed the cooking session by Freda, please go to our website, register, and we can actually download the recipe for you. And then you can also follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and also we're live on the Lagos Tourism website. All right. Okay, now I think this is the big moment for us. It's a live session with Dr. Esther Malm. For those who missed her profile earlier on, please bear with me because I'd like to, honor her by, telling you a little bit about her. She's got a huge profile, and she's very personable, and, she's very well connected to marriages, to children, and back to her home country, Ghana, as well. So Dr. Esther Malm is a psychologist and a licensed marriage and family therapist. She teaches, she researches, and she practices as well. Her research focuses on the impact of family functioning and parenting on child, adolescent, college, and adult outcomes within and across multiple cultures. Her current cross-cultural projects include examination of marital conflict and satisfaction among Ghanaians, home and abroad, and resiliency among parents of children with developmental disabilities in Ghana. Overall, she believes that healthy parents and healthy parenting are needed foundations for healthier children and nations. Charity begins at home. In practice, Esther serves individuals, couples, and families. She is an assistant professor of psychology at Murray State University, Kentucky, USA. And you know what? Just stay with us till the end, and you'll get her more details about how you can reach out to Dr. Dr. Esther. She also has an email address, horizonhabits@gmail.com. But you know what? Enough about me, enough about her. Why don't you let her talk to you and see what she has to say? about mental health in relationships. Once again, please welcome Dr. Esther Malm. I hope I did a little justice about your profile.
Thank you. You did more than enough. So
wow.
Thank you so very much, Alfie. And then also thank you, Folashade, for the background story behind the short film. That definitely was powerful. So my thanks to Eko Wellness Fair, the leadership team, for inviting me to present and talk a little bit about the role of relationships in mental health or mental well-being. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides, and then we can jump right in to talk a little bit about it. Share my screen. Okay. All right. So in the past 3 days, different aspects of mental health have been touched upon during the Eko Wellness Fair. And today we want to focus on relationships. And what we want to do is to discuss a little bit about the importance of relationships, the various types of relationships that exist. And then we'll zone in a little bit on the issue of domestic violence, which Folashade nicely prepared us for, and also talk a little bit about some of the signs and what we all can do, even if we are not the victims. And then also talk briefly about some other resources to help us, and lastly, tips to promote healthy relationships as well. So when you think about relationships, what comes to mind? You can go ahead and put that in the chat box as we talk. Can you all hear me though? Can you hear me? Just to be sure I can. Okay, great. You can hear me. Wonderful. I'm going to share my screen again real quick, and then we'll jump in. Okay, so when you think about relationships, you can think about one brief definition of relationship is how we think, feel, and behave when we are relating to other people. Relationships are broadly built on communication, as in the responses that we also receive from the individuals or the persons that we are communicating with. Now, we were all created to connect to other human beings, other persons, and we know this right from the creation story. Even those who believe in the Big Bang theory cannot necessarily explain why humans choose to connect more with fellow humans rather than, say, mosquitoes and chameleons. But that it is because we are naturally wired and created to be able to connect to our kind. Now, there are various kinds of relationships you can talk about, but the three broad classifications that we probably want to focus on today is platonic relationships, romantic relationships, and familiar relationships. When you think about platonic relationships, you can also put your relationship between your employer or your employees, and that as one of the sub kinds of relationships that you might have besides friendships as well. So why do we need relationships in the first place? Well, it is because it's a basic need for survival. Remember, we were created to connect. We live and thrive by having some sense of security and care. There is a natural desire and there's a natural need for care. There's a natural need for love. In the same way, also, there's also an innate desire we all have to love others, like to be able to give it to others, and at the same time also to feel needed. Now, I really love this quote by John A, that says that no man is an island unto himself. And I actually like to add on to say, even an island has water around it, which kind of speaks to the importance of connections. When there is no connection, what happens is a lot more loneliness and isolation. And there's been lots and lots of studies in recent times looking at the issue of loneliness, because across the world there's an increasing rate of people being lonely, and studies have shown its negative impact on overall well-being, both physical, emotional, psychological well-being. For one, there's a lot of medical conditions that have been associated with loneliness. One of heart disease, for instance, is very prevalent in generally individualistic societies, where typically people tend to live alone. People are busy with work. There's limited connections like you tend to see in collectivist societies, where the extended family is part of the family system and all that. There's also frequent hospitalization, where, for example, there are people who say they don't feel well. They go to the hospital, and sometimes just talking to the doctor or the nurses around, they come back feeling much, much better. All right. There's also the mental health part, or the psychological processes individuals go through when they are lonely. There's that the inability to be as creative and as productive as one can be. There's also a lot of insecurities that comes with being lonely, that lack of connection that we all need. Recently, there was an opinion letter that was written last month. Yes, it was last month, asking the question of whether loneliness a minister for loneliness should also be appointed in the Nigerian government. And this is because of the rapid increase in suicide that has plagued Nigeria. Now, in recent times, as far back as, or as early as last year, Nigeria seemed to, the rate of suicide kind of increased to a point where Nigeria tends to rank like the top 5. In 2021, though, I noticed that some other countries have also crept up in the ranks, including Cameroon. And I guess considering all that has gone on in recent times, one can understand why Cameroon is also ranking high in rates of suicide. Now, other countries already have ministers for loneliness, specifically Japan and UK have that. I believe one of the countries in the Middle East have either considered it, or there is a minister as well. And the idea being, this issue is so important, it must be part of, it must come under government awareness or the leadership of the country to see how much they can work to reduce the rate of loneliness and the negative impact that it has. So overall, studies from Western countries in particular show that decline in connections, human connections, are increasing poorer social and psychological well-being as well. Now, what are the benefits then of relationships if lack of them promotes poor mental health and physical health as well? What about the benefits? Well, there are lots and lots and lots of benefits of having healthy connections, healthy relationships. For one, you sleep much better. You don't have that much stress, and you don't have much conflict or fear of or lack of connection, and therefore, interestingly, it promotes sleep. It also improves immunity. Healthy relationships do improve one's nervous system. And again, if you really think about the mechanisms, one of the reasons is the presence of healthy other people around you reduces stress. So your sympathetic nervous system is not activated for long, reducing the levels of cortisol that are associated with stress as well. It also promotes aging. It better promotes aging. So, for example, there are people who are in their 40s, are stressed out with all the issues of life, plus poor connections with other people, whether it's with family or intimate other, they tend to age way much faster than a 60-year-old that has relatively good relationship with the family, friends, close people around. Healthy relationships also provide and create opportunities for laughter. Now, laughter is an amazing strategy we were created with. It does not only trigger smiles and laughter from others, which also produces has its own benefits in terms of neurotransmitter productions. But laughter also helps with so many other things. For example, it pumps blood to the heart. And that's a good thing. That's part of the reasons why we exercise, to be able to pump blood to the heart. And not only that, it takes oxygen. The pumped blood to the heart takes oxygen to the body, right? So it ends up even promoting healing, literally physical healing, because oxygen is necessary to promote healing in our body. So, for example, individuals with diabetes, for example, the tissue area tends to be dead, so it's difficult to get oxygen there for healing. It also helps in so many other amazing areas. For example, it burns fat. Have you ever laughed so hard that you felt that there's a part of your body that was aching? That's because fat is being burnt just by laughing hard or laughing out loud, like we tend to talk about. It also relieves a lot of stress. It promotes creativity. And again, having healthy relationships allows for shared interests, right? Ability to talk and just provides that space for your thinking, let's say thinking juices to move back and forth. Now, healthy relationships also produce oxytocin, which is known as the love hormone or the bonding hormone, and touch is one of the beautiful and great ways that happens. And if you really think about this COVID season we've been in, we have not been able to, because of the isolation, that has also declined over time, right? And so the healthy relationships do help us build levels of trust, as well as promote all other forms of relationships, even including sexual activity. Now, let's jump into characteristics of healthy relationships. Like, what are some of the core patterns you tend to see with healthy relationships? And here again, remember that as we talk about relationships, we are talking across the spectrum. So platonic relationships, romantic relationships, familiar relationships, these characteristics mark them and promote the health and the strength of the relationship. So let's talk a little bit about some of the characteristics of healthy relationships, and then we'll talk a little bit also about some of the characteristics of unhealthy relationships. So for healthy relationships, one of the major characteristics is the presence of mutual respect and care. Now, mutual respect meaning it's not only one way, it's not always one way, but both the group of individuals promote some level of respect, boundaries with each other. And also there's clear communication, clear, healthy communication of what people need. Again, it's not only one person needing all the time, but you needing and also asking for help. And I think I'm going to mention that again somewhere else in the slide. Quality of the relationship is way more important than quantity. I would like you all to go check the number of friends you have on Facebook. I would not be surprised if it is more than, I know a lot of people have 500, even into thousands, right? But ask yourself, how many of those thousands of friends you have are really close friends to you? So if you really think about it, the quantity of friends does not necessarily mean that you have a good relationship or a healthy relationship. It doesn't necessarily also mean that you'll be impacted in a positive way. What is more important is the depth of the relationship and how you build that together. Another characteristic of healthy relationships is time, making time for the relationship. And making time for the relationship also means that you are paying a little bit more attention. You are aware, you are present in the relationship. Presence also promotes quality of relationships. And the other one I want to talk about real quick is appreciation. Healthy relationships are relationships that are also steeped in appreciating one another. All right, so think about that for yourself. When was the last time you appreciated somebody, whether it's the house help or the driver or your employer or employee? You'll be amazed at how you actually change someone's demeanor and their day by just appreciating them, especially for things that they did not expect you to appreciate them for. All right, so all these are necessary and helpful in growing, grooming, and strengthening relationships. All right, now what about unhealthy ones? Well, interestingly, the extreme opposite of the characteristics for healthy relationships are seen with unhealthy relationships. For one, relationships where it's one way, not mutual, lots of self-centered thought, expectations, behavior is likely to weaken the strength and the quality of the relationship. Also, where one or more people in the group or in the friendship disrespect the other's time, person, or property. There's limited boundaries individuals have. They don't mind rabbiting in or disrespecting one's boundaries. Also, in unhealthy relationships, one of the characteristics you tend to see there is some form of power play, control, and also belittling people, like belittling their achievements, belittling their success. It can't always be. It can't be about you. It must always be about that other person. Little focus on you. Whereas healthy relationships, there's that expectation of mutual care and mutual connection, mutual respect for the other person's views and perspectives as well. Now, generally, these unhealthy behaviors tend to lead into some form of violence or abuse or disrespect of the other person. And like I said before, you will see this in platonic relationships. You can see this in romantic relationships. You can also see it in familial relationships. For example, a mother that continues to disrespect or dishonor the children, or even sibling abuse is something that's quite common, where the older one or the younger one puts down the other one for some reason or the other. All right, so these issues happen across all forms of relationships. It's not necessarily specific to one. And when it comes to these unhealthy relationships, they tend to be very subtle sometimes, where you don't necessarily see it as publicly, but with time, if you pay attention, with time, you notice that there is some level of belittling, for example, that keeps going on whenever you are in relations with the individual. Now, this brings me to an important aspect of unhealthy relationship that is very prevalent in our society, but sometimes we tend not to talk about it much. I think that is also rooted in there are various reasons why we may not talk about it. I think one of the reasons is heavily rooted in culture and stigma, but we want to talk about it today. And this has to do with violence. So violence broadly refers to actions that are intentional and that tends to cause both physical harm and non-physical harm to an individual or a number of people. Now, when you hear the term domestic violence, though, it tends to be focused more on the physical parts of violence, but the key piece here is that the perpetrator is an intimate partner and sometimes the family member. Now, more females generally, in terms of statistics globally, more females tend to be victims than males. And then also there tends to be more male perpetrators than females. Note here that there are times where the males are the victims and the females rather are the perpetrators of this. They tend to be a smaller percentage and oftentimes ignored, but we need to acknowledge that it happens both ways, just that for most that we know of, it's majority female victims, majority male perpetrators. Now, there are various forms of domestic violence. The typical ones we know of are the physical forms, where there is hitting, stabbing, choking. Wife beating is very common in many of the societies around the world. Actually, it happens also in parts of Asia as well. but it's prevalent across Africa. And then also there is sexual violence, and this again is where there's rape, forced people. Sometimes people are forced to watch porn and act on it. There are times where there's assault to their genitalia, and oftentimes also unwanted sexual intercourse. Now, these two tend to be physical. So when you think about domestic violence, they tend to fall into these two categories most of the time. Then there's also verbal violence, where there's continuous insults, and oftentimes both public and private insults. Name calling, the perpetrator tends to be critical about everything, and also they verbally belittle intelligence, body image, one's sexuality. Now, the interesting thing about verbal abuse is the fact that besides the public one, if your partner belittles you in public and in private, people get to know, right? But there's even a more dangerous one where in public, the perpetrator hails you as gorgeous and he loves you and all of that. But then when you get home, there's a new person in your midst who belittles you, because unfortunately in such situations, the world tends not to believe you, because that's not how you are seen by the community in terms of the perpetrator and how the perpetrator relates to you. There's also what we call psychological and emotional violence. And if you think about it psychologically, the whole idea of psychological violence is to create fear. So the perpetrator tends to isolate the victim from family members, peers. Sometimes they actually make you stop working or stop going to places where you are likely to actually speak to someone and get some level of connection. They oftentimes threaten the children, or they will threaten you by using the children as their bargaining chip. And oftentimes even threats to commit suicide. For example, if you don't do this, I'll commit suicide, sort of conversations happen. They also affect, violence also comes, or abuse comes also in the form of the way they play on emotions. So some of the things I just mentioned also speaks a lot to the emotional pieces of this, because they are very much interconnected. But one particular characteristic of emotional violence here or abuse is where they blame you for everything in the relationship. You can never be right. Even if it's their fault, you are the reason why they got it wrong, which can be very traumatic and crazy making for the individual. So the other forms also include financial abuse, where they do not provide financial care or strip that off. There is neglect, where sometimes there's generally no care or provision of basic needs. And then there's the cyber form as well, where they would use, as it were, technology to track, like they track your phone, they intimidate through text messaging. There's also this whole concept of revenge porn, where they'll threaten to show nude pictures or video about you on the computer without people knowing who it was who put it up. So there's also that form that goes on. Then there's also what they call religious or cultural violence, where the perpetrator uses religious practices or cultural norms as a reason for why they are doing what they are doing. So for example, if it's normal for wife beating, they would do it because the society does it and they don't see anything wrong with it. Or they'll use a religious belief system to belittle you, continually belittle you, or suggest that that's the reason why. So for example, you know how they always say the man is the head of the household, there are biblical truths to that, but it can also be abused, where they use that terminology, for example, to continue to sexually abuse, go off and do their own thing, come back and still expect the female or the spouse to still accept their behaviors. All right. Then there's stalking, where they literally follow you wherever you go, or pay people to track you. And then there's also what they call the reproductive violence. This is where the perpetrator would force unprotected sex to become pregnant. Then they would force, like, for example, force an abortion. They prevent the spouse from accessing health care or health services. And sometimes they actually will take away, like say, contraceptives. They'll hide it, throw it away, or not provide funds for that. Now, if you really think about all these various forms of sub-forms of domestic violence that occurs, it's often associated with control. And usually many of these perpetrators are very insecure. And so they try to, as it were, control the situation and feel like they are in power. Now, in this COVID season, unfortunately, domestic violence has really risen, and especially violence broadly, both that is both physical and non-physical forms have been railed against women and teenagers and children, like girls and girl teens as well, which is quite unfortunate. But this has been recorded across the globe and continues to. So for those who, and I would not be surprised if people listening to this presentation know of people who have gone through that, or they themselves may have gone through it. Now, one group of, well, I would say two group of people that are very dear to my heart are children and adolescents. And here I'm not talking only about girls, both boys and girls. Unfortunately, the violence against boys and girls are real, or children and adolescents are real. It happens all the time, but many times it's ignored, and parents in particular tend not to do quite a good job of protecting their children for various reasons. One, it's a very shameful thing to have a father or an uncle or even sometimes a brother rape or harm or abuse or molest a sibling or a child. So people tend to hide it. But I really want to encourage our community to stop hiding these cases and provide help. And this is an area that we need a lot more advocacy, so that young adolescents and children, both males and females, are cared for and taken seriously. It's important that we believe our victims. You can oftentimes see you can see evidence around as well. And also we need to be, parents and caregivers need to be people who the children can trust, so that they can actually open up to them. There's been too many stories over the years I've heard where, for example, a child will run to the mother to say the stepfather was trying to touch them, and the child rather is beaten by the mother for thinking such thoughts when that was what was happening. And so as much as possible, let's all continue to advocate for our children and adolescents. The thing is, if we do not, we are creating a ticking time bomb, because, there's a saying that hurt people. And if we do not take care of the young ones who are being hurt now, in due season, they tend to hurt people. All right, so we really need to pay attention to this. Now, real quick, let me talk about the cycle of abuse. So when we think about domestic violence, or some people call it family violence or domestic abuse, this is not just a one-time thing. Unfortunately, it happens continuously. And in terms of the short film that we watched and the background story around it, Miss Folashade made it very clear that it starts and then it continues. And unfortunately, when it continues, even when the victim goes to seek for help, and I'll talk about that somewhere else, there are times where they are ignored or they are not believed. They tend to believe the perpetrator over the victim. And what generally happens is some trigger occurs, maybe loss of job, some stressor from work, or something was not done that causes a lot of anger and stress, which leads to the abuse occurring. Now, when that happens, typically there is some form of, there's a period where there's a reconciliation. The perpetrator will repent, let me put that in quotes, and say they'll never do it again. And then there's a period of calm where nothing happens, life is going well, the relationship is heaven on earth. and then there's another trigger, and then it happens again. Now, the sad thing is that abuse actually tends to escalate, especially when the perpetrator does not pay attention to what the triggers were, so that it does not happen again. And stepping out of this cycle does take a lot of courage and support. It can be scary for the victim, but it is very, very possible. All right. So what are the other forms of abuse? And then we'll wrap up real quick. So besides domestic violence, which is oftentimes by the intimate partner, it can also be a family member. It could be a religious leader. It could be a sibling. It could be a colleague, or it could be a boss, or somebody of higher power. Again, it has to do with power imbalance in many ways, where you need something, and so to get it, there is some form of abuse that tends to occur. And so we need to be aware that these things do happen. And as much as possible, we want to protect ourselves and also be clear of what our boundaries are, and fight for that. Fight for that. One last piece with regards to abuse is when care is not given, when abuse is ongoing. Hopelessness sets in, helplessness sets in, fear sets in, and depressive symptoms set in. And usually, to end the pain and the helplessness, either the victim destroys the other, or themselves, or both. And I think the short film actually depicted where the victim killed the perpetrator and self. All right. Most of the time, people opt for suicide first. They'll rather kill themselves than stay in the relationship or stay in the situation that causes so much discomfort to them. Now, generally, statistics show that more women attempt than men, but more men complete it than women. All right. And usually more men complete it because they tend to use way more lethal strategies than women may want to use. But generally, both males and females do have the tendency to complete the suicide. Now, the source often is due to some level of stress, both imagined and real. It could be chronic or acute. Whatever the situation is, it is overwhelming to that individual and oftentimes over a period of time, which leads eventually to suicidal thoughts, which then leads to actually it occurring. And for which reason we need to pay attention and figure out what are the signs of violence, what are the signs of these things occurring. Now, if you have friends who don't show up for work as much or to school, you want to pay attention to that. It's an easy but often ignored sign that something is going on which is unhealthy. Bruises, wounds, overdose, or drinking a lot, and oftentimes these are behavior change that are not common or that are not typical of the individual. So you want to pay attention to some of these things. If the spouse or partner does not want you to come visit your friend, that is a red flag. If your friend is usually a bubbly person, but now you notice they withdraw, they do not want to talk, that is a red flag. These happen around us all the time, but we tend not to, we give it up and say, well, this too shall pass, or give it to God or stuff like that. But as much as possible, these are red flags that we need to pay attention to and find ways to help. So how do we help? Well, seeking family, friends, advocates. I say if possible, for the exact reason that Ms. Folashade mentioned, sometimes victims will go to their parents or their family members, and the same family members push them back into the situation. And by doing that, that actually increases the power of the perpetrator. So they tend to actually harm them some more. So finding someone who trusts you or who believes you, advocates, is very necessary. And then also going for counseling. Go for counseling for yourself. Don't necessarily go if your partner does not want to go. That's fine, but you go for yourself. And take care of yourself. But where there are opportunities for the family to go, the couples to go, or in sometimes group sessions, consider doing that. When I say counseling, that also includes psychotherapy. When we think of those terminologies, we think it's only for the broken people. That's not true. We all need some form of outlet. We all need objective insight. We all need care. And there are times where professional services actually help break through some of these challenges. Now, for health workers, it is said that individuals who are being abused are more likely to seek hospitalization. So for health workers amongst us who listen to this, the increased attention, it would be good to pay attention some more to the clients who come into the hospital, especially during this COVID era. Now, what can survivors do? What can victims do? For one, I think that this whole idea of domestic violence and the types is not common to many of us. So beginning to pay attention to what it is important. Be aware of the various types and figure out what you are going through. Now, you are not crazy. Usually, the victim thinks they are crazy. They are the ones who probably are acting this out. It tends not to be the case. And it is not only illiterates who go through abuse. Some of the smartest people are in abusive relationships right now. And sometimes because of their level of education and expectation or what they believe people expect of them, they're actually afraid to talk about it. But for all such people, I want to encourage you. You are way more important. Your mental health is way more important. Your destiny, your purpose, your life is way more important than staying in that harmful situation. So be aware and then work on reducing the stress you get from that, the violence experience, domestic violence experience you're going through, or whatever other forms of violence, whether it's at work. Pay attention to your stress levels and work to reduce them. Through this Eko Wellness Fair, there's been various examples of how to do that. Reducing the stress levels is huge because you see, once you reduce that stress level, you have headspace to be creative, to think and try to figure out ways to make a plan and reach out for help. All right. So like I said before, trusted persons are the people you want to look out for, and then make a plan. And this plan, you have to be very careful. You have to be mindful, start saving money, and find a strategy that would help you and the children, if there are children involved, to escape the abuse. We'll talk a little bit more about hotlines shortly. What about us, the bystanders, people who we may not be in that situation? Now, this does not only cover for this COVID-19 season, but I'm talking about this generally. Let us also be aware of the various signs and types of abuse. Let's reach out when we observe that. Let's be a little bit more attentive of our friends, the various relationships that we are part of, so that we can be able to identify some of these things. And let's also try to reach out to the potential victim. Be mindful how you do that, generally not in the presence of the perpetrator, so that the victim does not get it doesn't get worse when the victim is alone with the perpetrator. Also, if you can find resources for the victim, please do that. That would be a great help for their own process of planning and getting ready to find a way out of the situation so they can get help. All right. So the last thing I want to talk about here is, what about if you are not in a domestic violence situation where your relationship is growing? Things are going well, life is good. What are ways in which you and I can keep building that relationship? So first, let's continue to accept and respect each other's differences. Let's promote the strengths. The more we promote the strengths, remember I talked about appreciation. The more we promote the strengths, we appreciate more the strengths. The weaknesses end up being diminished in our own eyes. And individuals also tend to naturally work on their weaknesses because in many ways the strengths are being promoted. It's also important to learn to build or create bridges. For example, finding neutral activities and doing them together. The more you do things together, the more you stay together. Finding healthy activities, things that make you laugh together, be creative together, are great ways of growing one's relationship. Again, platonic, romantic, familial relationships, all these points are beneficial. All right. And one thing I want to encourage all of you to do today is to go and appreciate your spouse, your partner, your boss, employee, your children. Don't do it with an ulterior motive as to maybe you want to get something from them. No, hold that for now. Just go and say something nice. Thank them for something that they've done that you really didn't say thank you for. keeping their bedroom clean, the children, something very unexpected from you. You'll be amazed at how even their non-verbal reactions will show a difference. You can actually see the body even shift just because someone is appreciated. All right. And then also, do not assume, communicate, talk. Yes, some people do not like talking, but even in the little you do, ensure that you are communicating well, so that you're not speaking French whilst the person only understands Yoruba. Make sure you're on the same wavelength whilst you're communicating. And one important strategy that I encourage couples to do often, and I want to encourage all of us to do it, whether you're in a couple relationship or not, is to learn to use what we call I statement or we statement. All right. I statements focus on the behavior rather than the personality or character of the person. So, for example, you can say, I am offended by your comment, rather than saying you offended me. All right, or saying you forgot to do this, you forgot to do that. You tend to attack the person rather than the issue you want to deal with. So you try to rephrase words or general things you tend to say that get you into trouble. I'd like you to write at least 2 down, and then see if you can rephrase them into I statements where the focus is on the need, the behavior, the expectation you want. All right. And then also, please take a break when you're in conflict. Not all conflicts are bad. In fact, conflict is good in the sense that difference of opinion also brings growth, right? So not all conflicts are bad, and not all conflicts are solvable. We don't even have time to go there. But the key point here is that when you are in conflict, take a break. So the whole idea of when the pot is on fire, you don't touch the pot, right? When you're in conflict, the pot is on fire. So let it cool down, and then you can move it or pick it or do whatever you want to do. And by doing so, when you see you're in conflict, tell the other person that, look, I think this is too hot now. Let's calm down and let's come back and talk about this in 30 minutes or in 1 hour or in the evening. Then when you do say that, though, please honor that statement so that it's not seen as you're brushing away the person. And lastly, let's not get stuck in the past. Forgiveness is a choice. Repentance is a choice. It oftentimes is hard to forget. However, one of the great ways of forgetting is by choosing to create new and healthier memories. And the more we do that, healthier, positive memories, the more we do that, it actually ends up diminishing the painful past memories. So as you appreciate each other, respect each other, and build that relationship and connection through forgiveness and also repenting or saying I'm sorry meaningfully, you are able to create new memories and thereby reduce the chances of remembering pain or past things. All right. So in summary, good relationships are possible. All forms of abuse and violence tend to be associated with control and insecurities. And please remember that you can be a lifeline, you can be a change agent. So do not just ignore or be someone who just passes by. And also hurt people do hurt people. So as much as possible, let's help people who are hurting so that they end up not hurting others, either intentionally or unintentionally later on. All right, so this brings me to the end of the conversation here, and I'm going to open it. I'm going to stop sharing and open up for questions. Any questions? Any questions? So one question is, I was abused by my husband. How do I get him to get help? That's a very good question. Generally, you can't make someone do something, but you can take care of yourself. I would say this is a good conversation to have with your husband first, to see, especially when you're in a good place, and find out if they'll be willing to, for the two of you. I don't think it's wise to say they should go, but consider the two of you going to talk about what are some of the triggers for that lead to violence. And if they agree, you go together. Some husbands will, some men will, but some may be very vehement because to them there's no problem. And if that's the case, I would encourage you to go and take care of yourself. Go and take care of and learn strategies to either learn to diffuse the tension, and ultimately also to protect yourself. That's what I'll say.
Thanks, Dr. Esther. It's been very powerful. It's been amazing, Dr. Esther. There's so many comments that are in Facebook at the moment. Dr. Esther, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's been an amazing session. I wish you wouldn't even stop. But, so many comments. And, for everybody out there, just a quick reminder, this is Dr. Esther Malm. She's just been amazing. Please send in your questions. She is here. She's live. And she's ready to answer them. Dr. Esther, I think you have another question in the chat.
Right. So there's a question about the bombshell news we heard yesterday about Bill and Melinda Gates and their decision to divorce. And I know there's been a lot of questions about why and all of that. Well, at least I don't think they've told us why. I think there was a sentence in the BBC News that talked about different paths or something like that. And the fact that Bill is methodical or something like that. I actually have watched a documentary about Bill Gates, and I think that sentence kind of struck a nerve when I watched it. We are yet to know, that is, if they'll tell us what it is that triggered that. But one thing that clearly dawned on me is that money is not everything. Don't forget, the quality of the relationship is more important than the quantity, and also what we project to the world. Eventually, it's just like a bottle. You keep pouring things, eventually, or a balloon or a plastic thing, eventually it will explode, especially when there isn't much care and mutual care and respect. If mutual care and respect is lost over the years, it is possible that people will divorce even in their old age. And so as much as possible, we need to continue to pay attention to each other and find out what are each other's needs and continue to work to support each other's needs and well-being. It really takes two. It's teamwork. It's not always one person taking care of the other. The other also has basic needs that need to be fulfilled. So hopefully they'll let us know. I don't know if they'll tell us, but for me, just from afar, it just reminds me that quality and money is not everything.
Absolutely. Here's another one. My son is abusive of his siblings. How do I help him?
So the son is abusing the siblings?
The son, yes, is abusive of his siblings. How do I help him?
So one, I'm curious how old the child is and if there are other things going on. Number two, I would like to know, again, a little bit of the background of the child. Has the son himself been abused? And so he's acting out his abuse on the kids. And sometimes the parent may not know. So that's why a little bit of prodding, paying attention might be helpful. It's if the child has some other, for example, conduct disorder, they don't listen to the rules, they don't pay attention to rules and things like that, it's possible that they can also harm their siblings in the process. So I'll probably ask a few more questions. So one of the things I probably would say is first to see if you can spend time with the child. If that could also be an issue where the child's acting out is attention seeking. So to the parents, I'm curious, do you feel that there is enough time provided for the child, for example, compared to the siblings? Because if there is imbalance there, that could be a trigger where they're doing that for attention. But if all of those things have been provided and there's still that issue, I would suggest that you consider seeing specialized care, like going to a counselor, so that together you can sit down and prod a little deeper into what the issues may be, and then be able to have customized care for the child, for your son.
Turns out he's 10 years old and he hits them. Yeah. Good advice. Very good advice. So any
curious also, let me just throw this out there. I'm curious also of the parent relationship. Is it healthy? Is it safe? Is this something that the child is observing from parents themselves? And because kids act out what they see at home. And most of the time, I have learned over the years of practice that children tend to be symptom bearers of what's going on in the home. So I am less likely to focus on the kids first. I often want to see what's going on in the home first, because sometimes that might be happening. So if there's an issue going on there, that's an area too that should be considered.
I think another thing, Doctor, if you'd allow me, is, since the pandemic, a lot of people have been stuck at home. And I find that a lot of the kids, our kids these days are growing up not from what we teach them or our actions, but TV, and no longer TV, on their phones. And I call the phone a weapon of mass destruction for our kids, because now the kids come and say, "Oh, mommy, what is this?" By the time you're giving them an answer, they already know what it is. They want to hear what you're, interpreting it to be. So, and as I see a lot of things on Netflix and all of that today, the kind of cartoons we grew up with and the kind of child-friendly programs we watched are very, very different from what they're watching. So sometimes could it be it's not only what they see around the home, but what they're learning on these weapons of mass destruction?
Yes, what they see also plays a role, because again, you tend to act out what you see consciously or unconsciously. So that could also play a role in that. There could also be lack sometimes it could be a lack of structure. So we all function within, there is a need for healthy structure. And so when that's missing, that in itself can also trigger some of these issues. And you raise a good point about the lockdown, everybody being indoors, pent up energy, and feeling restless, being at the same place, not being able to see their friends in school, not being able to play outside like they usually would, and all those things can increase the restlessness that individuals have, which can also end up leading to aggressive forms of behavior as well.
Right. Good point. Okay, like I said, lots and lots of comments, in Facebook. Any other questions for Dr. Esther? It has been a powerful session. I have 2 pages of notes. Very, very helpful. It's been an amazing time with you, and lots of nuggets. How can the viewers reach out to you, Dr. Esther?
Well, my practice is called Hope Consult and Psychological Services, and I tend to book clients generally through my email for now. And so the email address is horizonhabits@gmail.com, horizonhabits@gmail.com. And I would give some other contact details to Eko Wellness Fair, so they can put it on their site in the next few days as well. So Horizon, like the Horizon Habits, your habit, one word, it's plural, horizonhabits@gmail.com. And you can just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to connect with you and work with you.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, it's the focus for this year's Wellness Expo is about our mental health, and you touched on so many areas. And I think one of the biggest things is about our relationships. And most of us don't get it right. A lot of people don't. I mean, look at the Gates. Who would have thought? Look at Jeff Bezos, with his former wife. Who would have thought? And we could go on and on, but then there are relationships that, last into 50, 60, 70 years. And, you ask them, what keeps you going? And, the wife says, well, he just does everything I tell him to do. And the man says, you know what, I listen, so, and then you start to ask some real questions here. But, with the pandemic, it has brought a whole different ballgame to relationships called mental well-being, mental health. Our stress levels have gone through the roof. A lot of us now work through Zoom, and with Zoom, you never stop working. There's meetings. At least if you're going to the office, you take tea breaks, you take coffee breaks, you go to lunch, you walk away from your desk. Now it's like you walk away and you think you're missing something, or you think your boss is honking, where are you? So that mental well-being is so important. And I would like, if we could please put up the helpline numbers, because that is critical. Like you said, reach out to each other, touch somebody. I made notes saying, reach out to somebody and appreciate them. And while you were talking, I just reached out to a few friends just to say, what, I don't say, often enough. Thank you for being there. Thank you for helping me. I met someone in the middle of COVID, and we've been friends since then, and gone ahead and done a lot of wonderful things, including traveling. And it's all about appreciating each other, and saying that just thank you. And it goes a long way. Or how are you? And someone says, you know what? Nobody has told me that in so long. So, thank you, Dr. Esther, for being here. Once again, this is the Eko Wellness Expo 2021. The focus is mental wellness. If we can please have the helplines on the screen so that people can make a note of them. Once again, we want to thank our supporters. Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. We've got Flutterware, and please, we have lots of great things on Flutterware, where you can go ahead and shop for great products, everything tuned in to help your mental wellness and your well-being and your weights and your look, your glow, everything about you can find on Flutterware through the Eko Wellness Expo. Thank you to Lagos Mind, who have been our supporters, and also thank you to the Lagos Tourism group, which is where we're even, you can actually find us there as well. We're live on YouTube and Facebook, lots and lots of comments, going on. And so we're changing our schedule for today. The last thing we have today is the breathe work and stretches with Babatunde of Lifelong Fitness. Once again, please go on Flutterware while this is going on. Shop to your heart's content. We have entrepreneurs there that have great products, all made in Nigeria, by Nigeria, and sourced in Nigeria for your well-being, your wellness, your weight, your eyes, your hair, your beauty routines, all of that stuff. And of course, your food, what you take in. All right. Okay. So thank you very much once again. Let's go to the last session of the day. Is the stretch, breathe work or breath work with Babatunde of Lifelong Fitness.
Of the Eko Wellness Fair, themed My Mental Health Matters. This edition will feature therapeutic sessions, reflexology, breathwork, spa sessions, float therapy, mental health conversations, cooking demonstrations, online shopping sessions, and many more. This virtual event will start from the 1st of May to the 7th of May 2021 from 12 noon to 2 p.m. daily. To register, please visit www.ekowellness.net. Proudly supported by Lagos State Ministry of Tourism, Lagos State Ministry of Health, our technical partner, Flutterwave.
Hello, everyone. I think I'm not sure if we're still doing the breath work session with Babatunde, but just wanted to remind you all about our schedule for tomorrow, day 5. Flutterwave, of course, is flutterwave.com/ng/Eko Wellness. Okay, so while we wait on that, let me just take you through a great lineup for tomorrow. For those who were with us today, you watched the short film by Folashade Akintunde, Bloody Hands. Well, we're going to show it again tomorrow. So for those who missed it today, watch out because we're going to have this tomorrow. I believe we're also going to have the cooking demo by Freda of My Burnt Orange, and you can follow her on Instagram as well. Start a Garden, Grow Your Ugu by Sisimi of Okwe Farms. Know her, love her, so organic. You don't want to miss this session. We will have breath work with PJ Okocha, Farm to Table, the journey of our food from seed to plate, small panel discussion, cooking demo by Zesty Juice, and once again, we'll show our short film. It's a great lineup for us tomorrow, and we want to thank everybody, our supporters. Also, would like to share with you that we have a 10-kilometer coffee cycle ride on Saturday, the 8th of October, with the Pit Stop Cycling Community. You don't want to miss that. If you cycle at whatever level, please go to www.ekowellness.net to register. Once again, the 10-kilometer coffee cycle ride on Saturday, the 8th of October, with the Pit Stop Cycling Community. That should be an exciting one, especially if you bike ride, get your bike, go ahead, register at ekowellness.net. And then Saturday, the 8th of May, we're hosting a fireside chat in partnership with Eden Venture Group and the New Nigeria Group on Clubhouse. Clubhouse is the place to be these days. You want to connect, network with all other entrepreneurs. Lots and lots of groups are on there today. We're going to be on there with the New Nigeria Group on Clubhouse, 4 p.m. West African time. Please look out for the flyers. Don't forget, go ahead and shop at Flutterwave. You know, we're at ekowellness.net, our website. We're also streaming every single day live on Facebook and YouTube. And great thank you to our supporters. Thank you to our partners. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today on day 4 of the Eko Wellness Expo, the virtual edition. Hopefully, we'll see you again tomorrow. Join us on Facebook or YouTube. Go to our website and see what other exciting activities that you want to plug into between now and the end of the expo. All right. Once again, Afi Brimo with Sack Fruits, over and out from the Eko Wellness Fair 2021. Thank you very much for joining us and have a great, great rest of your day. Thank you.
Welcome. My name is Olusoyan Babatunde. I'm an advocate for wellness, and the work we do basically is teaching people how to take good care of their physical body, of their mental body, their emotional body, and how to guard their spirit. I teach yoga, Pilates. I also design and administer other exercise and fitness programs to help people stay fit and well. I give diet advice. I'm into healing, holistic healing. We do meditations, we do nurturing sessions. We also do basically everything that is geared towards well-being. Okay. As part of the activities marking this year's Eko Wellness Fair, I will be offering breath work and dynamic stretch. Simple breath work that will help you draw in tremendous amount of vital energy, and also dynamic stretch to help you release used up energy in your energy system. So I'm going to start with basically the breath work, grounding yourself. Thereafter, I move to the dynamic stretch. So once again, you're welcome. To begin our breath work, it's essential you find a comfortable sitting position. Ensure you are either seated on a chair or you can sit in a simple cross leg. Also ensure that your spine is erect and you turn your palms facing up in a receptive position. Keep the mouth closed, tip of the tongue connected to the palate. You can choose to close the eyes or keep the eyes wide open or partially closed. Okay, but again, it's best to close your eyes. Just observe the breath. Observe the natural inhalation and the exhalation. Now let's begin our deep abdominal breathing. Inhale deeply. Hold. Exhale slowly. Hold. Remember, you're inhaling through the nose and exhaling from the nose. Keep the mouth closed, tongue connected to the palate. Inhale deeply. Hold. Exhale slowly. Hold. 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 Inhale deeply. Hold. Exhale slowly. deeply. Hold. Exhale slowly. Hold. Inhale deeply. Hold. Exhale slowly. Hold. Inhale deeply. Hold. Exhale slowly. Normalize the breath. Breathe normally. Let's open the eyes with a big, big smile. That's the end of our breath work. How do you feel? I'm sure you feel revitalized, rejuvenated. Now we're going to move into our dynamic stretch. Remember, I told you the breath work essentially helps us to draw in tremendous amounts of vital energy, life force, chi or prana. Okay? So as it is now, if you actually did the breath work with me, obviously you can't remain the same. Alright, now let's move into our dynamic stretch to help us release used up energy from our energy centers and from our aura. Okay? So let's come up on our feet. Now it's time for our dynamic stretch to help us release used up energy from the energy system and also the energy body. So we'll begin in true north. Let's keep our feet hip width apart, toes pointing forward 12 o'clock. Look straight ahead. Keep the mouth closed. We move on with eyes exercise. Keep the eyes wide open. Let's look up and down without moving the head 12 times. Ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Center. Let's look right and left without moving the head 12 times. Still on eye exercise. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Center. Eyes rotation. 12 times clockwise, 12 times counterclockwise. Clockwise, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Counterclockwise eye rotation, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Remember, when you're doing the eyes exercise, you take off your glasses if you're using one, okay?
right? We have finally come to the end of day 4 of the Eko Wellness Expo. I hope you all enjoyed every single moment. It's funny with the Babatunde breath works just now. Normally, when you roll your eyes, you're actually rolling it at somebody like, but you're actually exercising your eyes by, he was like, and I noticed his head was moving a bit like this, like, and I was like, if I'm a woman and you know how to roll your eyes, you don't need to move that head. You just go. But this time I realized it was just to exercise my eyes, which connects to your brain, which connects to your mind, all about overall wellness and health. And so, ladies, the next time you're looking to eye somebody in a bad way, just remember it's about, rolling your eyes to stay positive, give you positive energy, and do not move your head. And if they say, what is that about? Just say, don't worry. It's all about Eko Wellness, mental health, mental, physical well-being, and everything, wealth and wellness. So thank you very much for joining us for day 4. As you can see, we have an exciting lineup for day 5. We have a cooking demo, we have a chat session, we have Babatunde coming back to us again, and we have growing ugu with Okocha Farm. So lots and lots of good stuff coming, lots of energy here. I loved Dr. Esther. I loved everything about today. Just an exciting time for us. Please, follow us on Facebook, Instagram. We're live every day from 12 noon West African time on YouTube and Facebook. Go to Eko Wellness website and, register to follow us. There's always so much going on. I mean, it's a combination of lots of great entrepreneurs who are doing big things, just, with a focus on your health and your wellness. So this is Afi Brimo of Sack Fruits, part of the Eko Wellness group, signing out from day 4 of the Eko Wellness Fair. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on day 5. Thank you. Take care, and bye for now.